What's up, guys? Frugal BC. I just watched The Line Goes Up. This is a critical documentary about NFTs and about cryptocurrency too. And let me tell you, I got some thoughts. We're going to talk about that today, right on Frugal BC. What's up, guys? Frugal BC coming at you. And today, this is going to be a two-part series. Okay, so a friend of mine had tweeted out this documentary on YouTube called The Line Goes Up, and it's about NFTs, and it is not a positive look at NFTs. I don't think I've ever done a deep dive into NFTs themselves. Obviously, we touch on them in this channel, showing you a couple platforms where you can mint them very inexpensively, and that's cool. We've never really done a great deep dive into it. So someone had posted this, and it was a non-crypto person, someone who comes from, a movement that is pretty anti-crypto in general. And as you know from watching this channel, I'm not a drinking the Kool-Aid person on crypto. I mean, obviously I run a crypto channel, so in general, I'm fairly believe in it, but I've always along the way pointed out the areas where I just don't think crypto has gotten it right yet. So there's let me just explain it this way. I got about halfway through this documentary and I had more than enough I knew for one full video. So I decided to break this up into two parts. First part, we're going to talk about the documentary is broken up into the chapters, and the chapters that I got through were Bitcoin, Ethereum, the network, or whatever. What did he call it here? The machine, he calls it, the virtual machine, and NFTs. He gets into the first part of NFTs, and then we're really going to break this apart. So if you like what we're doing here, hit the subscribe button, and you can see generally we do crypto experiments. Like I said, not all. This is not a hype machine channel. You're not going to get hype from me. What you're going to get is me trying experiments. I keep saying us. It's me. Me trying experiments and letting you know how they go. I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when we run into those nasty Ethereum gas fees, you know what, I call it like it is. But I really feel like, I really feel like this channel was less about exposing the bad parts about crypto as taking a really one-sided stance. Now, that being said, I think the documentary got some things right. And I think there's a lot of things that got horribly wrong too. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. So the first part, I'm going to kind of what I'm going to do is take the first three chapters and kind of lump them all together, because I feel like there's some stuff that they really got right and then some stuff that they really got wrong. And the first three chapters cover Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the virtual machine, which kind of ties into Ethereum. So some of the things that he gets right, well, they talk about the Ethereum gas fees, and that's just 100% right. Ethereum, well, let me actually back up, because one of the main criticisms that he makes is that Bitcoin was promised to be this currency, this decentralized currency that everyone would use to complete transactions, and it'd be really, really fast and low fee, and people could do it all the world and basically do this all without a centralized bank involved. And I think that's his premise, is that never really happened. What happened instead was Bitcoin. We vary what I say. It became a digital store of value, which I think that there's a pretty clear case, considering look at the lows in the bear market. We're now $32,000 per Bitcoin. And so, but he's right. Bitcoin never really worked well as a currency. It really is more a store of value. People have been calling it digital real estate or digital gold, and I think that's accurate. Honestly, I really do. And Ethereum suffered from a lot of the same problems. He brings this up. It was supposed to be the answer to Bitcoin's woes, and it ended up being not quite that. With gas prices that can range from God knows how much. He brought up like in the thousands. I've never seen that. I'm sure it has happened, but what I've gotten more has been along the lines of $20 to $40. Except remember, there's always two parts of this transaction. So they get if it's $20, it really ends up being more like 40, or if it's 40, then it ends up being 80. So I think he's correct on that. I really do. He points out that even with the amount that Ethereum runs, Visa does way more transactions per the same volume. I forgot how he compared the measurements, but the Visa basically is already doing what Ethereum does better. So here's what he gets wrong about this. So there's a few different points in the movie where he says that basically these are vehicles for the rich to get richer. And rich people are kind of this boogeyman in the movie. And so he points out how the Winklevoss twins were in on Bitcoin early on. Well, like there was a lot of people in on Bitcoin early on. So I don't see, for one thing, is like rich people like it so bad. That's essentially the argument. Like there's no argument made about why this is a problem. Rich people like a lot of things that us non-rich people like. Does that automatically make them bad? I mean, this is just poor reasoning, right? Like, but I know that he knows what he's doing. He's pointing out, he's making rich people as the boogeyman, because people on the left will say, oh yeah, it's damn rich people. See, it's just another scam for them to get rich. I mean, you could apply that to just about anything. In fact, he does make the comparison, and he does a good job laying this out, of the 2008 financial crisis and the bundling of bad mortgages into these bonds that were rated AAA when they were basically junk bonds. And the ratings industry was in on it. Everyone was in on it. Everyone was making money until, all it took was basically a house of cards. And once you pulled one out, the whole thing came crashing down. So that was well laid out. However, what's the comparison to Bitcoin? Like, whereas, this thing has gone through numerous cycles. It's been around for 12 years. Where's this house of cards moment? Like, we haven't experienced this yet. In fact, what we've seen is that in general, it just keeps going up, and there's swings. It's a fairly new asset. So the swings are pretty extreme sometimes, but they're always within a range. And the thing to remember, like right now, we're kind of in the bottom of the range, but that bottom is still higher than like a year and a half ago, like quite a bit, like double what it was a year and a half ago. And so I don't see this bottom market out. This is a common theme that we'll see throughout this documentary, is like there's these comparisons where pretty much everything that he says about Bitcoin or Ethereum or cryptocurrency could easily be applied to like stocks or bonds or just about anything. So like there's just some really bad arguments here. So he talks about the environmental aspect of this, and this is something I've already debunked on my channel. Now, not that Bitcoin isn't using a lot of energy through proof of work, but by the way, one thing he leaves out, 30% of all Bitcoin mining is done through renewables, which no other industry can boast. No other industry is even close to that. And whenever I hear people bring up this argument about the environment, which, listen, I'm pro-environment, okay? Like I care about that stuff too. But you know what? I also ride my bike, and I don't fly on planes 4 times a year. And so I see a lot of these people make this argument about Bitcoin, but then they're flying on planes all over the place. The airline industry uses way more energy than Bitcoin. So the problem I have with the environmental argument is that you're not comparing apples to apples. Like the financial industry uses way more, by the way. Stuff like airline travel uses way more. There's like, it's actually pretty low on the list of things that are significantly impacting the environment. And yet no one is making any changes in that area. People aren't flying less to save the environment. The same people that complain about Bitcoin, they're using free travel miles to go fly all over the place several times a year. They don't have a problem with that. Okay. Access is another one I thought was really interesting. He kept bringing up the argument that only if you got in really early on Bitcoin and Ethereum could you have benefited from it, which first off isn't true, because I was not in early on, and I've actually made pretty good money on Bitcoin and Ethereum. So, try again. But also, the thing about this is you can actually get in really early on these projects and you have access to them. Whereas on the stock market, you have no, like, even if you get into an IPO, there are pre-sales for certain select people that you and I are not getting into, okay? So this is his argument. His argument is about access, when there seems to be more access in the cryptocurrency world than there isn't anything else. I mean, the kind of like returns I can get on some of these projects, I can't find in the stock world, in the traditional finance world. I just don't have access to that. That's for rich people. And then the interesting one was about stable coins. I thought this was hilarious. So he was talking about Tether. So he pulled out one stable coin and talked about how they basically had two different companies, and either one of them could draw from the pool of money to back the stable coin if someone was to take it out. So he was saying, like, if everyone took it out, the house of cards would fall down, and this would be a problem. Well, this is not entirely a bad argument, except the fact that every other financial instrument in this country, like every bank, works like this. Do you think that every bank has that you might put your money in? Do you think they just keep your money in there? That's not how it works. Every bank has about 10% of the total assets that they hold actually in the bank, okay? They lend it out. They make money by lending it out and making more money on your money than you will. And they give you a teeny tiny percentage. So a stable coin that maybe has half, let's say, that's a little better than 10%, isn't it? So try again. All right, so that was the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the machine. Like I said, I think what the points about it so far being kind of a failure in currency, and that you can actually use it to buy things, is not entirely off the mark. And there's some things he said about the blockchain being only as good as its inputs, which I think is a fair criticism, because it's less about the fraud happening within the chain, whether it's a traditional supply chain, traditional financial supply chain transaction, or a blockchain one. The problem is the fraud can come on the front end, which is true of like a regular one or a blockchain. So it doesn't really solve the problem. And it's a fair point. I believe, now I could be incorrect on this, but I was led to believe that companies like Walmart and Target are actually using blockchain technology in their inventory systems now. So I don't know. And he does make a claim about that it's unlikely that they're all going to use one blockchain, but they're all using independent systems now. So it seems like narrowing them down to a handful of blockchains would still be more standardized than just everyone has kind of their own system, but or whatever. That's not a big deal in my opinion. But what I really liked is I like the NFTs chapter. So this is chapter 4, and at the end of it, that's about halfway through the film, maybe a little less. It's like 1 hour into the film. When you finish chapter 4. And I thought this was some of the best parts so far. Now, this might be the fact that I also kind of share his opinion on NFTs to an extent. I'm going to talk about like the differences toward the end of this. So he talks about how smart contracts were invented on the Ethereum blockchain. They led to NFTs, which led to kind of this mania of crypto punks and kitties and whatever. And so the artists and the subject of means, he was talking about how a lot of them cashed out on their 60 seconds of fame. He pointed out the annoying girlfriend. What was her name again? I used to watch her YouTube channel back in the day. She sold the meme. That little girl that was like, had that weird kind of evil look on her face when the fire's going on behind her. She sold the meme, the rights to the meme, or the NFT to the meme. The kid that had the nerdy picture, what was it, bad luck Brian or something like that, he sold out. So I don't know what the point he was making on that part, but like all these creators, it kind of made a case for NFTs in some ways, because all these people were subject to these means and not really benefiting from them, and now they were able to financially benefit. But he made a good point. He made a good point that's saying that a lot of them didn't really know what they were selling. And I think that's a fair point. They don't know, are they selling the copyright? Are they selling the commercial use? I mean, it's not really clear what they're actually selling when you sell an NFT. You're selling the rights to the digital version, sort of a cryptographically unique one. I always think of this as like if you had 100 signed comic books. So it's the same comic book, you could make copies of it, but having the actual one that was signed by the artist, like that has value. So I think it's the digital version of that. Another good point he made was that these things are, a lot of these are so simple. They're basically tied to a link to a JPEG. So it's pretty easy for, they could be subject to link rot. If the link goes away, then what's the value of your NFT? They could be swapped out afterwards. I mean, I don't know. I think the smart contract would prevent against that, but maybe I'm wrong. And it kind of goes back to that greater fools argument again, which actually I think has maybe more water here than the other one. I should point out this, he was saying this for Bitcoin and Ethereum as well, or any cryptocurrency. Is like the idea is more people buy in and that's how you cash out. I'm like, yeah, but that's how stocks work. Like that's how everything works. Anything of value, like a collector's items would all work that way, right? They could keep going up, but like at some point the market might crash, and that might happen with any thing of value. I think it's less likely to happen with Bitcoin because there's less and less of it as you go on. Now I'll give my thoughts on NFTs in general. So I haven't watched the second half of this yet. I wanted to save it. I wanted to keep this fresh in my mind for this first video. I will do another one in a week. So I don't know what he's going to cover, but to me, there are several categories of NFTs, so there are the purely speculative, meme-based NFTs, and those would qualify, good, those would be your CryptoPunks and your Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. I have to admit, I think those are really dumb. Sorry. I just think they're kind of stupid. I don't see the underlying value. To me, there's no artistic value. I guess memes have value to people. Maybe this is a younger person thing that I'm just too old and fuddly to get, but to me, there's a big difference between people who's like a real artist who's been doing this for decades, doing this daily art every single day he never missed a day. The day his children were born, he did one of these. I mean, like this is what he does. And so for him to make a lot of money off of that, I'm cool with that. Cool, right on, man. But these basically sketches or these silly like 8-bit meme things, I mean, I don't have a problem with them. I'm not going to buy them. It just seems dumb. So NFTs, but I think NFTs have a lot of other uses. And so I am involved in some blockchain games. I like the idea that when I purchase one of these or earn it through the game or whatever, it belongs to me and it's cryptographically unique and the company can't take that away. I have it. It's in my wallet, right? And I'm gonna tell you a little story about why this ownership matters to me. But first, I'm gonna break these other ones. So there's gaming, and then there's also the NFTs that will be true collectibles, like maybe, like I like the idea of concert tickets where you get an NFT and maybe that NFT gives you access to some additional content or something, right? Like, so there's some value there. So I don't think we should throw the idea of NFTs out with the bathwater. I think they have a lot of use that has yet to be realized, and some of it is realized, like these games. So how many of you have played these games where you spend all this money, you put all this time in, and like they can take your stuff away at any time. So if you don't think it can happen, well, let me tell you my story about iTunes. I was a big collector of Japanese music when I would travel to Japan, or sometimes there was various websites where you could purchase this stuff. I would buy a lot of Japanese music, and I would usually, my method was to import them into iTunes, and then I would get rid of the underlying files because, if you have a laptop, especially back then, this is like 15 years ago, you didn't have a lot of hard drive space, so you didn't want to hang on to this stuff too long. And some of them I would get CDs and I would download the CDs onto iTunes. And that way I didn't have to worry about the physical CD. I could get rid of it. I didn't have to worry about space. Well, one day I pull up, actually the reason I found out is because I had a screensaver that would show all my albums. And all of a sudden one day it said no album art. And I was like, wait a minute. And I didn't think too much of it the first couple times. And then I was like, wait. Why does it keep saying I don't have any album art? At first, I just thought it was a glitch. Then I pull up iTunes, all my music is gone. I'm like, are you flipping kidding me? And I didn't say flipping, I will tell you that much, but this is YouTube and this is a family platform. Not really, but they don't like it. I was livid, like all this music. So what they did is they put everything on the cloud and you had to download it from the cloud, except only stuff that appeared on the American iTunes was on the cloud. So I lost all my Japanese music. Now I have backups of a lot of it, but not all of it. And so I lost some stuff that really mattered to me. And this is what taught me, when you buy a digital product from a company, you don't actually own it. They own it. They let you use it. Okay. I never bought another thing on iTunes again. I was like, that's it. You just lost a customer. Like, I was buying music on you. I was buying Japanese music as well as American ones. I like American music too. I don't really listen to that much Japanese music anymore, but I was really into it. So I'm paying money for this, and you're just taking it away. You're just erasing it. Like, so that was a valuable lesson. And so when I heard about NFTs, like, I like this idea because I like the idea that you can have verified ownership. Now, there might be problems with it, and I hope they get that fixed. And I think that's legitimate to criticize cryptocurrency and anything in it. As you know, I do that frequently. That's something that matters to me. I never want to I never want to put crypto colored glasses on, I think it's really important to be honest about this stuff and to be critical, because I think there's a lot of magical crypto thinking in the space. But that being said, I think this person had an axe to grind. It seemed like they were more concerned with making a point than getting to the truth. And I think the people they were aimed at, I think they're aiming a documentary at people who already dislike crypto or are skeptical of it and just want something to point to and go, see, it's all BS. Well, I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of good here. I think we're in the early stages. I think it has a lot of growing to do. One of the things he didn't bring up that I've always been critical of is just the usability aspect. A lot of this stuff is just really hard to use, and it's not designed with actual users in mind. So that's been a frustration of mine. It wasn't mentioned in here, but just a lot of the arguments just they just really don't hold water. They're just not good arguments. So that's my thought on the line goes up. I'm gonna suffer through the next one because I found it pretty annoying. I get fired up. I'm like, come on, dude. It's just frustrating. I hate hearing bad arguments. Like, make a good argument and I will consider it all day long. And they did make some good arguments, but he's made some really bad ones here too. So, some where it's just like setting up a boogeyman, like rich people are involved in it. Well, so are a lot of non-rich people. So what's your point? Again, just some really dumb arguments here. Anyway, I hope you liked that. I would love to hear your thoughts on this if you watched it. Appreciate it if you didn't spoil the ending too much. I mean, if you want to make general comments about it, that's fine, but I'd really like it. I'm going to watch the second half next weekend and stomach it as best I can. And maybe it'll be a short video if there's not too much more interesting beyond what he's already said, but it's a well put together video. I mean, it's well done. I like the cuts and everything that he did. The way he laid it out just isn't, some of the arguments are just terrible. Anyway, hope you like that. Frugal BC, and I will see you in the future.